Revolution Against Evolution. I'm your host, Doug Sharp.
I'm your co-host, Rich Gear, and we have a guest with us, Laura Gatz, and a very interesting book, which she's going to talk. It's from Antarctica to Africa, right?
It's called Africa via Antarctica.
Via Africa, and I thought, okay. So, I don't even know how to start this thing, Doug. It's like, what would possess you to go to Antarctica and then to Africa? I mean, I could see maybe in Africa and say, well, I've never been. Maybe I'm kind of close. I could kind of go down there. Or if you're down in like lower South America, you know, you're only like 50 miles from Antarctica, from that lowest. Where's that part? There's a little island down there, or a little part of south of Chile. I think it's the really southern part. You're not that far from Antarctica.
Easter Island.
From that part, but oh yeah, is that down that?
That's down there.
That's
too.
way down there. I keep thinking it's farther north than that in that area, but anyway.
Well, actually, it's kind of directly west of Santiago, Chile.
Well, anyway, Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're
Thank
glad
you
to
very
have
much.
you here. So,
Yeah, and so we have lots to talk about, and maybe we'll have to do 2 shows if we run out of time here, because you visited many countries in this trip, and you were able to somehow finagle a sabbatical or something with your job so that you could
I did.
get time off. How did you?
yeah, how did you do that? That's interesting.
Well, it's funny. I've worked for the same company for almost 21 years now, and about 5 years ago, I was on the internet wondering who had sabbatical programs, and lo and behold, I found out that my company did, which is kind of funny because they've never told us
They
about
wouldn't
that.
either.
So I asked my boss, and it was actually something he knew I was interested in doing. I'd always been upfront with him and told him that my real dream was to quit kind of the rat race and to take a trip around the world. So I decided it was high time that I did that, and if I could do that and keep my job, that would be great. So I took 2 months off, and I took a trip around the world, and I started off just kind of asking myself, where do I want to go? Well, I really wanted to go to Antarctica, and so I started to build my itinerary, and I started off with Antarctica and figured out that I could make it work, and I thought, well, heck, if I'm going to be in the Southern Hemisphere, why not go to Easter Island next? So I just kept planning, and that started to take me, Southern Hemisphere, and then I started to go west. And then my mom, I got up the courage to tell my parents I was gonna go, and Mom said, "Can I go with you?" And I said, "Well, where would you want to go?" And she said, "Well, I've always wanted to go to New Zealand and Australia." And I said, "Well, okay, why don't we go there?" So she met me over there after I went to Easter Island, and then she went home, and I went on to Africa, and that was my 2-month trip. There's a lot happened.
Oh,
I had a
goodness,
lot
yeah.
of great adventures.
So you started out. Did you go to Antarctica first?
I went to Antarctica first.
How do you?
How do you get there?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of Antarctica cruises now. That seems to be, if not common, at least not unknown these days. What wasn't a cruise you went on? What was it that you did?
Kind of. It was an expedition. I had no idea that people went to Antarctica, that you could get on a ship and go down to Antarctica. And so I did some research, and one of the premier companies that goes down there is called Lindblad, and Lindblad partners with National Geographic. In fact, the ship we went on was called the National Geographic Explorer. And it's a beautiful expedition ship. It's one ship lower class than an icebreaker, so it's got an extra thick hull and actually can break through ice, not really thick ice. It doesn't go up on the ice and break through it, but it'll just kind of plow through it. And it was amazing. It was 10 days. They flew us all down to Santiago, Chile, and then from there we took a charter down to Ushuaia, which is down there right around Cape Horn, and that's where we all got on the ship. I think there were about 149 passengers, and then we sailed out. We sailed through the Drake Passage, which is kind of a notoriously bad weather area. There's a current that goes through there, and you can have really, really high seas, like 30 or 40 foot waves. Both directions we went, it was very calm, very flat. I was kind of disappointed.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you go there, you got to be up on current events, right?
Right.
Sorry, but what time period are we talking about that you went down there?
I went down during their summer, which is Well, you could go down there, you can visit anywhere from the end of November through like the end of February, beginning of March.
That's their summer.
That's their summer.
And what
So
year,
it's-
what year, how long ago did you go?
I went in 2010.
2010, okay, so 4 years ago. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but, so you went to Antarctica. What part of Antarctica then did you explore? Was it all on the coast? You didn't go inland at all, did you?
Correct. We
Yeah.
didn't go inland. We would live and stay on the ship, and then we would take Zodiacs, those big blow-up boats that you sit on the side, and take those ashore. They also had kayaks. You could get in, and they would give you like an EPIRB, something you stick around your neck, and if it gets wet, it sends out a signal so they can come get you quick before you freeze.
Yeah. What was the temperature down there when you were there?
It wasn't bad. It was much warmer than I thought it would be.
Only 30 below.
It was, no, it was like between 30 and 40. We had very good
Above,
weather.
above zero, huh?
Above zero,
Okay.
yeah, it was very warm.
Wow.
And so we started off at Elephant Island, which is where Shackleton and his men got stranded and had to overwinter. So that was really interesting. And then,
Did you actually see some of the ruins or anything like that from the
no,
excavation?
no,
Let's talk about
not
who that,
where we were.
who Shackleton is for the audience out here, because some people don't, in fact, I remember the name, but I'm not placing what he all did or.
Oh, I don't know
what
that
time
I
period.
can give you all the specifics.
You
but
don't give all the specifics, what time period are we talking about when he was there?
1908, 1910.
Yeah, that's what I
something
thought,
like that.
during that
Thanks,
time,
And it
okay.
would be, Shackleton was one of there were actually several different rivals of people who were trying to reach the South Pole for the very first time. Shackleton was the one who actually made it and made it back. Now, Scott was another expedition, and they all perished on the way back.
Yeah, was Amundsen, was he North Pole, or was he South Pole?
The South Pole.
I thought he was South, so he'd be Antarctica as well then. Okay, yeah. Anyway,
But, you didn't go to McMurdo Sound or anything,
No.
any place like that. That was, this was, there's sort of like a peninsula that sticks up that's close to South America.
Yeah.
And as I remember the geology of that area, there's this peninsula sticks up, and there's like a ridge that curves around and to the South Georgia Island and Falkland Islands, and that's where the Drake Passage goes through. So it's sort of like, if you look at the ocean floor, there's a plate that
Interesting.
is in that area. That
how does it relate to, does that relate to the flood at all?
well,
Are they speculating on that?
we're not going to do that in this show because this is about her book.
Yeah, I know,
okay?
but I just, it is revolution
It
against
would be
evolution, so I was just
interesting to know.
trying to give a little
Yes,
tie
I
in
did.
here, you know, just kind of
And,
stuff like
and
that.
so, our thing is that a lot of the after effects or something during the flood, a lot of people debate of when this tectonic stuff actually happened, whether
Yeah.
it was during the flood or afterwards. But a lot of the reasons why we have continents is because the whole surface of the Earth was altered and it was changed.
Right.
And you had a lot of the movement of the continents taking place during the time of the flood. And so it does explain a lot in terms of, how the Bible actually fits in with the geology that you observe.
Well, then, you were on the coast, did you go all the way around the entire continent? I assume not, just it was a one,
No, we
north
didn't-
side of it?
We
is what
didn't
you-
have time. We did go through a passage that took us over to the eastern side. In fact, there's an interesting area where a lot of the icebergs will break off from the Ross ice shelf, and then they float north, and they come into this little passage area where it's not quite as deep, and they get stuck. And so you've got what are called tabular icebergs. They're very tall, 3 to 5 stories high,
Wow.
and thousands of feet long, and they're just stunning. It's just seriously amazing to see how large these icebergs
You
are.
got some good pictures of that, I'm
I
assuming.
did,
yeah.
I did.
There's
Yeah.
some that are as large as the state of Connecticut that I've heard. Is,
Yeah.
Wow.
and
Wow.
So it's I imagine you had a interesting time. Now, was the ice actually sculptured by the wind and the?
Some of it was. So there's all sorts of different size of icebergs. and they have different words for them. There's stuff called brash ice, that's really tiny pieces of ice kind of compacted together, but you could get a boat through there. And then there's growlers, those are a little bit bigger, which is kind of a funny name.
Yeah, but I can see why they would call them that, yeah.
And there's 2 or 3 others I can't think of at the moment, but it's amazing. Icebergs will roll from time to time, and you can tell that an iceberg has rolled when you see that one of their sides is kind of sculpted by the water, because they get kind of pitted. And then it's really interesting to see the ice. The shapes are spectacular, and some of the ice is extremely old and compacted, so it's beautiful blue colors. And
Yes, we've seen pictures of that blue, that is gorgeous stuff. How long were you in South America, or I mean in Antarctica?
About 10 days.
About 10 days you were there, so you got a chance to see it quite a bit there then, didn't you?
Yeah, and all the wildlife is absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah, besides the penguins, what else you got?
Well,
Polar bears, right?
No,
No polar
No
bears.
polar bears, they're north, right?
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
north. I did spend about a month in the Arctic as well. I could tell you about that
You went
sometime.
in the Arctic as well?
Yeah, I was in the Arctic Circle for a month. It was,
Wow.
In fact, she went to a spot near Archangelsk in Russia.
Oh yeah, we're planning on maybe trying to get out there for a kind of a seminar, or a presentation, visiting a pastor out there in Archangelsk. So you were kind of close to there, huh?
yeah, I was
Now,
in
this was down on the
White
same
Sea.
trip then?
No, this was 1 year later.
1 year later.
But we were in the White Sea, and we went to the Solovetsky Islands,
Yeah,
which is just beautiful.
and that
Very
has some
remote.
interesting history to that, isn't
They-
there? Where
yeah.
they had some of the monks or something like that that were exiled there, or?
There was that, and I know that this one monastery that we visited was one of the first places that they ever used as a gulag. So
Who used it? The Russians?
the
or-
Russians, yeah, they would send people there, and they made them build this monastery, which I think is a little ironic.
Well, they didn't want them amongst them. Sorry,
But-
that was a bad pun, but I couldn't resist it. Anyway,
Back
back to
the
Antarctica.
animals.
Back,
Yeah,
back,
the
back to
animals.
let's go back south again. But anyway,
So all sorts of different kinds of whales, humpback whales, humpback whales. I can't think.
didn't have blue whales,
No,
sperm whales,
Maybe sperm whales.
right whales.
I don't know if we saw a right whale or not. And orcas.
Oh, yeah.
We did see those.
We
okay.
saw pods of orcas, and it's amazing. There's a lot of life going down under the sea.
Oh, so is it primarily sea life that was down there? Is there much on the island itself?
Just the penguins, seals, and what are like seals?
Walrus?
Yeah, and walrus. There were a lot of
Where
walrus.
sea lions, or are they north too?
And sea lions.
There were sea
Yeah,
lions,
and sea
okay.
lions. It's amazing to see how they all interact. But the ship that I was on had an underwater vehicle that was remote, that they could control by a boat. And at the end of the day, they would show us some of their footage, and it's amazing. There's sea stars down there, and little animals that crawl around, and fish. There's a lot going on in the sea that's almost frozen.
The sea. So is it even colder down below the water then?
It's probably right around freezing. It's probably
Okay.
right around 30 degrees or
Okay.
32.
That's
Now,
fascinating.
tell us a little bit about your book now. You've actually written quite a number of books, and you're an accomplished photographer as well. And
Wow.
you got your camera there. Show us. Your
I
camera.
do. So
That is some camera.
this is what I
That's
took
a
with
serious
me.
camera.
It goes out like that.
You don't get good pictures like she takes on your cell phone, trust me, you know?
Of course, part of this is a lens hood. It helps keep the light out, but
Yeah.
it's kind of heavy, so I would use a monopod a lot. That allowed me to set up quickly and
Yeah.
while still keeping the camera fairly still, but not taxing my muscles too much.
So what did you shoot when you were, I mean, you're shooting everything, but I mean, what's your favorite thing that you were shooting?
Probably the ice.
Was it the ice?
The ice and the penguins. The penguins were really funny. It's amazing. The rule was you had to keep 15 feet from the penguins, but if you sat down and they came to you, that was fine. They just didn't want you to,
Approach them, yeah.
approach them and
What
freak
kind,
them
were
out.
they emperor penguins, all different
We
kinds?
saw all sorts of different kinds. We
Okay.
saw one emperor penguin. That was when we were very far south. And he was amazing, but he mostly just stood there and let us creep up on him from the ship. But then he tried walking away, and he actually
Yeah.
slipped and fell down.
Oh, it slipped and fell down? I figure they know how to get around down there, you know?
So we saw chinstrap penguins, gentoo, adelie. I think those were the main kinds.
You have
that we
you have
saw.
those all listed in your book?
I do.
I'm gonna have
I
to
do.
figure, I didn't
Well,
even know
show
those
us
were
your
so-
books
yeah.
here. Let's, we were wanting
book.
to advertise. your
Showcase
book
this
here,
one, yeah. Africa via Antarctica. 60 sunsets in the Southern Hemisphere. How long did it take you to write that book once you got back, or did you write it on the
Well,
way?
I wrote it while I was gone. I downloaded and weeded through my pictures every day, recharged all my batteries, and then I spent time every day writing. So I would make notes during the day and write up more in the evening. And I actually kept a blog, which kept my mother happy because she knew, at least as of the last posting, I was still alive.
Is that what the book is primarily about then? It's just kind of your daily routine, daily things that you experienced, you
Yeah,
saw, or
it-
it's kind of like a journal then of what you did?
It's
Yeah.
a lot like a journal, and then I bring in information about the animals, interesting tidbits that people may not know, things that I learned along the way, and then some of the funny stories that I heard from the people that I met. It's just kind of it is definitely a travel log, and it's got a lot of additional information in it. And I also wrote
I
it.
do like that picture on the front there. Is that some of the ice there you're talking about?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I also included kind of a how-to for people that are interested in taking a sabbatical, because I've read all these books about, hey, we quit our job and took a trip around the world, but they never really tell you how you do it. So
Boy, that's a good one. Yeah, and that's in this book, right?
So yeah, I start off at the beginning saying, here are a lot of the things that you have to think about, and then I have a lot of resources in the back, where I stayed, websites that I used, packing list, animals that I saw. I even have New Zealand and Australian slang, kind of a little dictionary in the back, health tips, and Laura's travel principles.
First of all, why did you decide you wanted to go to Antarctica? I don't know if we got that established. If you said anything, I don't remember. I mean, is it just something?
It's just so
so
it's so
different?
remote, and hey, it's one of those continents you're not just going to happen by.
I know, yeah.
There's no towns there.
It's not on the way to someplace else. Right?
Yeah, right. And I wanted to see penguins and the ice, and it sounded like a grand adventure to me.
Apparently it was.
And it was. It's really amazing to see all the animals that God has made and how they interact with each other and how they rely on each other.
Well, you saw that, what was that one movie that came out a few years ago about the penguins, the emperor penguins? It was
March of the
Happy
Penguins.
Feet or something, or was it March?
There was Happy Feet, which
Yeah.
was animated.
Oh,
and
no,
then
I'm talking about the March of the
March of the
Penguins. That's what I'm
Penguins.
thinking of, the live action one.
Yeah, that's
That was amazing when
unbelievable.
their feet were like, the little ones were on there. Oh, man, that's brutal. Especially in the middle of wintertime, they're sitting there freezing, and they got these ones on the outside.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't know how they
man.
do that. That's really
Ugh.
unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah.
So after you went to Antarctica, you went to Easter Island. Now, that's about talking about Antarctica
Remote.
being remote. Easter Island is about as remote as you can get.
Where is that located in relationship to Antarctica? I mean, how far away is that?
Well, it's definitely north, and it's
Yeah.
directly west, about 5 hours by plane from Santiago, Chile. So,
And it's sort of about halfway between the South Pole and the Tropic of Capricorn, something like that.
I guess what I'm getting at is just, the book says Africa via, or Africa via Antarctica, but you're going the other way
right.
first. I mean, Africa's on the other side. I'm sitting there going, okay, this is gonna be an interesting odyssey, how you get from one place to the other.
Yeah,
So
you're
I
going
went all the way
west.
south.
You're going west,
and
not
then I
east.
went west around the world.
Okay, so on Easter Island, I was very fast. I was doing a study on post-Babel, stuff. We were in South Africa, and I was looking at stuff in megalithic cultures and things like that, and all the big stone things. And Easter Island, of course, crops up. And what I was fascinated, I thought somebody was joking me. I went on the internet, and I always thought they were just heads, but they're actually whole bodies.
Mm-hmm.
There's been volcanic or something ash or silt or something that's gone down.
Yeah, a
and it's
lot of them
co-
are buried.
They're
They're
buried.
just buried up to their necks.
I thought they were just built on a side of a cliff, you know, sort of like, and so the heads were, and it's the whole, and I go, oh, somebody's faking me out. And that's absolutely
Yeah,
right then,
you
right?
can actually, the ones that
They've
they've
dug up.
restored and put back on these pedestals, you can actually see their hands. And they're kind of down at their sides with their hands in front, and there's also, on some of them, there's detail around the back. It's amazing.
I mean-
They're huge.
And the Eastern Island, I was reading on the internet the history, and it goes back thousands of years, you know, it's like a very old culture, and, you know, if you think of, you know, post-flood migration, that could have happened, you know, we had people living hundreds of years, after the flood of Noah, that could have, that migration may have actually happened early on, you know.
Well, it also, was it Thor Heyerdahl or something? Was he
Yeah,
the guy?
he had some strange
Oh, talk
theory.
about it. Yeah, he
I
did,
don't-
yeah.
It's, I
But they
read
could
that
get there
book a
from,
long time
on
ago.
rafts, they could make it, I think, and he did, he sailed from these other islands on a raft, and he was able to get to Easter Island, and he showed it was definitely doable.
It was
man.
definitely
Yeah.
doable.
What a nut, how could you do that? That's dangerous stuff, man, those guys are quite heroic, or insane, or both.
Well,
you
we
know?
have a missionary friend who is right now in one of the Solomon Islands. His name is Barry Makel, and
Yeah.
and he's on the island of Buka right now. But he's with the Wycliffe Bible Translators, and they are translating the Bible for all these different islanders in that area.
Oh.
Every island, a new language.
He was just sent me a newsletter of where they were traveling from island to island in a small boat, and he went with them, and and he said that was quite the experience. You know, these people you think are primitive, but they're really very knowledgeable in
Right.
terms of their seafaring skills and, going by the stars and everything. By the way, did you happen to look at the night sky while you were down there?
Well, we tried, but it didn't get very dark. The further south we went.
Oh,
Oh,
you're
there's
right.
summer, you're right, you're right, yeah.
And it's amazing, as you get down south, like even though we just got a degree or two further south, it would stay later about an hour longer. So very often the night was 1 or 2 hours long.
So they're almost like the land of the midnight sun
Exactly.
in reverse, right? Yeah, okay.
And when
Definitely.
we went to South Africa the last time, we went during their winter, and so and we suffered for that too.
It was, yes, it was cold.
Was it cold?
Yeah, they don't heat their homes during the
don't.
winter, and so, but the night sky was brilliant, and you could see the Magellan Lake clouds and the
Southern Cross.
Southern Cross.
It was great, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get to see much of the night sky.
Now, when you got to Easter Island, though, did you get to see, you could have seen some, is it still real light even in Easter Island?
Well, that is a lot further north. I don't remember being outside a lot at night.
You're still below the equator
You're
there.
still below the
Yeah.
equator. I'm sure it would have been very dark there. I just don't have a real memory of looking out at the stars.
Okay.
Okay.
What was your most interesting thing when you were on Easter Island? I mean, why did you, there's two islands over there. I want to go to Easter Island, and I'd like to go to the Galapagos Islands. Those are the two I'd
Oh,
like
the
to go to.
Galapagos are
Yeah.
fabulous too.
Oh, you been there, dude?
I went there
Oh,
with
man,
my
I'm so stinking
dad.
jealous, I can't believe it. Oh, man, I'm stinking jealous.
Let's
Okay.
see, my favorite thing on Easter Island was probably meeting one of their geologists. See if I can remember his name. Gosh,
You can't.
I can't, of course.
all right.
That's okay.
But anyway, he was fascinating, and he actually, there was a post tour after the Antarctica tour that went to Easter Island. I didn't go on the tour, but I did meet up with them because one of the National Geographic photographers hooked me up with this guy on Easter Island and said, hey, you should contact him, he'll show you around the island. So he did, and he just showed me some great things, and he's like, incredibly knowledgeable.
About the geology of the island itself?
Yeah, and he's actually one of the guys that helped set up one of the first moai, to have it
The Moai, what is that?
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry, the moai are those big
That's the
rocks,
statues.
the statues.
Okay, they're called
And
Moai.
the island is volcanic. It's,
It is, and the moai are actually taken out of the side of one
Basalt,
of
yeah.
the volcanoes. They're carved out, and then they had a system with logs to roll them, maybe not with logs, but they rolled them down the side of the mountain, and they had a big hole, and then they figured out how they could get them to go into the hole and then stand up.
Really? Wow.
So they were quite advanced.
Almost sounds like those Egyptian, some of those monoliths or whatever, they were obelisks or whatever. They would get them in, then they get the weight, and then they
Yeah.
go up, and they put,
Yeah.
you know, so pretty advanced stuff, so.
We only have 3 minutes? Good grief.
3 minutes? Oh my gosh, we haven't even got to Africa yet.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, wow. So from Easter Island then, where did you go?
From Easter Island, in order to get further west, I had to go back east and fly to Santiago, and then from Santiago, fly on to Auckland, New Zealand, where I met my mother.
Wow, okay.
And then we took 3 weeks on the North and the South Island, and then several days over in Australia, flew into Sydney, and then flew up north to Port Douglas and went to the Great Barrier Reef.
Oh, man. Well, how was that?
Fantastic. It was
Is it everything, it's all,
beautiful.
everything, all the reports, it
Yeah,
is
the
what?
Great Barrier Reef was amazing.
Yeah, that, you read all about it, hear about all that kind of
Now,
stuff.
tell us a little bit about your other books here, just so we
Oh, I do these for myself. These are my scrapbooks, and I did one per trip. This one's about Africa. This is about Antarctica, and this one is the middle, Easter Island, New Zealand, and Australia.
Those are nice. Now, those are your books, but you also said, I know we're running out of time here, but I want you to show some of these, where she goes, she collects masks and different things, right? And this one was from where?
This one's from Easter Island, and this shows the Birdman. There was a cult of the Birdman a long time ago. It's got some interesting history to it. And this one is from New Zealand. This is actually a girl, and the Maori,
Yeah.
the folks that
Tattooed their faces and stuff?
that tattooed their faces. I like that she's got a shell in her eye.
Wow, yeah. This Birdman one from Easter Island, you were telling earlier before the show, is like, as they become Christianized, they mix the Birdman, that's on top of the Christ figurehead right here, right?
It is.
That's
yes.
bizarre.
It's-
That
it
is
You know,
is.
if
It's
you're
crazy.
in the army, if you get a shell in your eye, you get a Purple Heart.
Yeah, and then you're a shell of your former self. Anyway, so this one over here is from Africa, correct?
Correct, yeah.
In that, what part of Africa? You
Well,
know?
I bought it in South Africa, but I heard that it wasn't actually local to South Africa. But
So-
I also have one, I think this one's the male, I also have a female.
Well, we really enjoyed having you on our
It's
TV
been
I
show
great.
enjoyed
tonight.
being here.
So
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you so much for coming, yeah.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time on Revolution Against Evolution.